Christy is here.
I'm here.
Hi, Christy.
Hi.
Oh, yeah, Chrissy's back. Great.
Well, I'm back.
Yes. Okay, so let's see, what are we doing for time? Oh, 6:01. Shall we start? Everything is rolling?
Yep.
Okay. So, the Granite Study Commission come to order. And let's do the Pledge of Allegiance, Luke.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. So I see on Zoom we have Christy Mainwaring. Welcome, Christy.
Welcome back. Yes, to you too.
Nobody else?
Well, we have Dan Clark here in person.
We have Dan Clark. And Dan, you're from the what's your title?
Director of the Local Government Center Context University.
There we go. So Christy is the director of the Local Government Center at Montana University. Okay. So any public comment on matters that are not on the agenda? Anything you've got, Christy?
But just a reminder for everyone to vote for the upcoming levies. We have lots of them coming up.
Yes, we have several levy initiatives on the ballot coming up.
Right.
Okay.
I have this at the top, I believe. Yeah.
All righty. And then, so the minutes from the last meeting, we all got a chance to look those over. Did you get a chance, Elena?
Yesterday, yeah.
Yes. Anything coming to me? So after we approve the minutes, for this meeting.
I'll second.
All right.
This is a here.
Today is officially correct. With the notices. Yeah. Yep. Well. So okay. So all in favor of approving the meetings, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, Elena, thanks. So motion carried. That. So moving on to continued business budget report.
That right here. It looks like our month's expenses are just similar to last time, 35.26 for our printing. And then what we have left is 6,207.32.
So there's a month to date there too.
Month to date.
Expending.
It was the end month amount.
Yeah, I think the only thing we
and then,
spent last month was the notices in the paper.
Yeah.
Yep. Any comments on that?
No, I just have this one. Not right now. No.
Moving on to new business. Additions to tentative report. Take it away.
Okay, well, this is something I talked to you about, Dan, just about the certificates that needed to be added. And yeah, I'm not sure if I give you a digital copy of that, but I added some that were largely based on that Gallatin County example that you gave me. And I have that in your packet as well. Oh, so yeah, I placed these for Brian and Elena. I placed these just at the end of the initial tentative report that I gave you guys. And so I have first the certificate of existing form and plan of government, which is just affirming that we have an ECOF form. And I don't think there were any more specifics needed in that regard.
Conditions.
It's after the final recommendation.
11. That's where the first certificate is.
Certificates.
Yeah.
And these one.
No, these were not changed from last time when we initially approved the tentative report. So right now we're just on the existing form and plan of government one.
Yeah,
So we have,
that's straightforward.
yeah,
Second certificate is the proposed form and plan, which is the commission form, right?
yes. So I carried a lot from that example given to me. I kind of, I cut whatever I could from both examples of our existing and our what we're looking for, and highlighted the laws that concern the actual sub options that we're looking for beyond just the commission form. For today, I made 4 of the packet.
These.
Not yet, no. I don't think they have to be approved. So, yeah, we did approve the tentative report before I got these additions, so that is online. But right now, I'm just seeing what we think of the additions, and potentially we could approve these after the hearing.
Yeah, this is like the working draft with the certificates added, the additions. So it's the approved tentative report with
Stands.
yes. Okay. Okay. Well, Elena, I mean, we haven't had more than 2 people at one time at any of our meetings, so there's no reason to anticipate a mob showing up for this.
Well, I've got a question. I put things out. Hopefully someone would come in later, but I've got a couple of questions. What causes the need to change the form of government? Again, Dan, can you clarify that? Just the change in the,
So did you hear that, Dan?
Yeah, you want to repeat it?
Yeah, she said, she asked what causes
The need for a change in government. So the county, when the Constitution in 1972 was adopted, all counties at the time, their existing form of government was codified in the new Montana Code Annotated. And that structure was established, and it was called the Elected County Officials Form, which has a basis in the Constitution and is somewhat rigid. Well, not somewhat, it is rigid. Where it establishes from your list there, that is the plan of government, and it cannot be altered and still be retained its elected county officials form. So in order to change anything about the plan of government, which is, that list of things where we're going to elect all the row officers, change from, elected from districts portioned by population, all that, or at large, any change about that would have to adopt a different form of government. So,
Really?
Is that making sense?
Yes, it is. Making a lot of sense.
So, so what you're proposing is to modify a plan, a part of the plan of government, which would require a change in the form. So you would need to ask the voters to shift from elected county officials form and adopt the commission form, and then adopt whatever proposed alternative you have to that plan. So you're asking to go from 6 to 4-year terms. So when it was first established back in 1974, the county established 6-year terms, 3 commissioners. So to change to 4-year terms, you'd have to change from elected county officials to the commission form of government, and then the change from 6 to 4. So there'll be on the ballot 2 questions. If the voters do not elect to change from the elected county officials to commission, but they do elect to go from 6 to 4, that change won't take place because you didn't change your form of government. So it has to be a yes on both of those questions for it to pass.
Does that answer
Well,
your question?
so how many counties have had already changed those?
Of the 56, there's probably not many, like 14, maybe less.
Really?
Yeah, it's a complicated request of the voters for them to understand what that means. And so it's a hurdle that we've been finding for counties to be able to surmount that hurdle in order to create any sort of change to their form of government. But Ravalli County has changed it years ago, and it's not uncommon for them to propose some alteration in their plan because they have the commission form. But there's other counties that they wanted to, and they just can't quite get the voters to understand that we need to make that.
So
And in many
any of
counties,
these other,
sorry, say
excuse
again?
me. So any of these other types of things that you might want to change, you would have to switch to it, wouldn't you?
Yes. So any change to the plan would require a change in that form of government. So, to go from say 3 commissioners to 5, to go from 6-year terms to 4-year terms, to the way we elect the officials to at-large elections, all that would require a change in the form of the plan.
And would that require the change of the form in any other government? Like a hospital district?
No, so it's just
It's just the county.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And yet there's not that many.
I'm sorry?
It just seems cumbersome for future changes.
That's correct.
The whole county goes.
Yeah, and I know several study commissions this go around. They have been debating. They say they know where they want to be. The county wants, the citizens, they're hearing from them. We want to have, self-governing powers. We want to have some of these other things. And that's what they're asking for, but they feel it's going to be too complicated to go from where they are as an elected county officials form all the way there. So they're just proposing a change in this. The only question is going from ECOF to commission. And if they can clarify that, then the next step is easier for them to access. And so that's one of the things, or they're doing what you're doing, just asking one change of their form of the plan of government, and then having the form proposed change.
So instead,
But then going forward, it would allow future changes as growth or public wishes, right?
Correct, yeah, so it's much more, it will make the county more nimble and responsive, that they could change then by placing anything on the ballot at any time once they go to commission form. So once you're over the hurdle, then it gives you a lot more flexibility. But right now, your only option for changing from ECOF to the commission is either through the local government review that you're doing now, or through a petition process that the voters would have to care enough to sign petitions to force it on the ballot. The commissioners are completely out. They can't on their initiative put something on the ballot.
my one question was, is that we're talking about two big ones. Would it be better to have one ballot issue to commission form of government? And after it's a commission form of government, go forward with changing the two confusing.
It may not be confusing, but it might be frustrating. Because if they don't understand the question of going from ECOF to commission, so they say, no, we want to stick with the existing, but we want to change from 6 to 4 year terms. So if the 6 to 4 year terms passes, but if it doesn't pass to go from ECOF to commission, then that doesn't go into effect. Right. So it could create some frustration, which could also then, not a bad thing, stimulate within the community. It's like, oh, well then, now that we understand, can we do it again? Problem is, then you got to go back to the petition, because the commission on its own can't put it back on the ballot.
But in the proposals, you would put that in order to change the term limits, you would have to.
Yes. And did I have that in the ballot language that I sent you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, it could be pretty clear, right?
You would think.
If it has be,
Yeah. And so hopefully, and that's the thing, is we hope that the electorate is reading, paying attention, listening to what's going on, and understands that nuance,
right.
and then recognize, yeah. And so it might be that I don't want to change from 6 to 4. Then it might be a default. Then it's going to be no.
Yeah.
It might be harder for people to say, oh yes here, but no there. They may not understand what the advantage is of saying yes to the alternative form of government, but a no to I don't want this change. So it might come out as a no, but it's less likely to be a yes no. But if they're going to say yes here, they'll likely say yes this.
Well, except the only other way it can happen is if you have this commission time period, right?
So go ahead.
Let Christie go.
Okay, go ahead, Christie.
I can't hear answers.
Go ahead and ask your question again.
So, but if you don't do it through this commission, government study commission time, you couldn't change it, right?
Right. So the law.
You couldn't make any other light change.
Yeah. So the law will. The only option for the county to create a change right now is either through the local government review process or through the petition process, because of the elected county officials form. That's their existing form of government, and if they were to adopt an alternative, right? So the law refers to all the other forms of government as an alternative. So if the voters in Granite County were to adopt an alternative form of government, i.e. the commission form, then that adds another layer of opportunity for the county commission to then by ordinance, pass an ordinance placing the question on the ballot. So that currently isn't an option for the county. So it could be that mid-cycle between the two study reviews, the citizens say, we would like to see this change, and say, we'd love to make the change. And if you had an alternative form of government, you could place on the ballot by adopting an ordinance, whatever that change is being proposed. But right now, that is not an option. So you're really stuck to waiting on that 10-year review and hoping that the voters vote yes, or waiting for it to be such a big issue that someone's going to make a petition, go around the county, get 15% of the signatures, and then bring it back to the county, and then it goes on the ballot, which that's rare for people to care enough about whatever the issue is. I don't think anyone cares enough about 6 to 4 year terms or partisan, nonpartisan to go around and sign petitions. Things have to get really weird for people to care enough to do that. So then you're stuck to that 10-year review, and then, like Missoula County, I'll just tell you, they are dying to make a change. They are dying, and they think that the voters would support a change. The problem is they can't ever get it to pass on the 10-year review, to have the study commission to even propose the change. So that fails the ballot box. And so then they're stuck to either the petition or waiting for another 10 years.
Well, and that's kind of, wow. So this isn't, of the counties that have made the change, even just to say no on whatever you don't like about, that would be the way to go to give flexibility, wouldn't it?
Yeah, so I think it's a good plan to just go ahead and put this on the ballot. Whatever your plan is, just get that question before the voters and hope they understand it enough to say, yes, let's do that. And then you're in a place where you have a lot more ability. You may never access that opportunity, but it's there as an option. Yeah.
So, Alana, you had a
You said, so it's yes to both on the ballot. And it's the state commission.
So if the voters voted yes on both, you would need to create a transition plan, which is going to be fairly simple. You write a plan, how do we go from 6 to 4, and you create a plan of that transition of, which commissioners are going to go to 2 to 4 year terms now, and who's going to go. So once that is adopted, if it votes yes, you create a transition plan, that gets adopted, then you're basically done.
That's the transition plan, the study commission.
Yeah.
So the study commission.
Yeah. So if it doesn't pass, then you're done. If it passes, then you get to say, okay, now, and so you're still kind of at a high altitude. You could right now figure out what's the plan. If the voters vote yes, then District 1 and District 3 are going to, the next time they're on the ballot, just, District 1 will be on the ballot next, and that's going to be for a 4-year term, and then the next one's going to be for a 2-year term, and then those two will be on 4-year terms.
It wouldn't be on this ballot. For example, should I be a primary, maybe in general election, or maybe every 6 years, and then the commission would have to plan and decide going from 6 years to the next one. The next one will be 2 more years. That would be up. And then it would be 2 more years.
So so we have to just figure out how to stagger that in so that in the shortest amount of time, you're fully functioning at that proposed change. And you can figure that out now. And oftentimes they'll figure out what would that look like, because people want to ask, well, how is that going to work? Well, this is how it's going to work. And so you have kind of that transition plan in your back pocket as part of the marketing or education of the commission to the public. And then if it passes, then you say, okay, here's the transition plan we've been talking about. and we'll go ahead and approve that. And I can, does that make sense?
Yeah.
There is a lot of discussion. First of all, the public's very unhappy. That's why this time they voted for. So it was interesting. So did the town of Salisbury. So there is a problem. There's a problem out there. And when we did this, the comments, or like some of the questions, why not it changed from 6 to 4? Do you want the form of government changed? No, but they didn't want to change. So they were confused. They wanted 4, but they didn't want to change the government. So it was confusing. I think even for us, it was kind of confusing on that. There were other people that said, and this is people that I've talked to, you know, because they did get in touch with me. They said, why can't we have nonpartisan and then have one for, I forget how they do it, how it was said, one for each district and 2 sort of like, thank you. And they brought up that, which kind of is a good idea also.
So unfortunately, in the 2023 legislative session, this is being recorded, right? Okay, watch my mouth. So someone proposed, for whatever reason, to pull that option out of this plan of government. It used to be an option to where you could have a hybrid, where you could go to 5 commissioners, 3 from districts. It just said you could have, you know, a combination of districts and at large. So that idea, we're gonna have 3 districts, people elected representing those districts, and then we'll have 2 at large. That could have been an option, but that has since been eliminated from your menu of options. So in order to get that type of structure, you would have to go to the charter, and it could be that if there's enough interest in saying, we really like that idea, then you could say, okay, well, then we need to make the big leap, right, and go all the way to the charter in order for us to do that. And we've just been finding it's a hard sell to go from like ECUF all the way to the charter. And that's where some of them are starting to realize after charter being rejected in the ballot box, but everybody wanting what's in the charter, they just don't, they can't get their head wrapped around what this all means. So they're thinking if we just do small bites and we might in 30 years get there. But jumping from here to there, it's hard.
But for us, the 2 at large, going to 5 commissioners, 2 at large, is kind of a moot point because the voters didn't want that. Yeah. From our surveys.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
So you have to go to self-governing.
Yeah, you can have self-governing without a charter, but you can't have a charter without self-governing. So yeah, so to get there, that would be a part of that. And it's probably late in the day now, but just thinking for study commissioners, you are listening to, and you have many points. So think of it as like a big pot. And the survey is just a slice of that pot. There's many other influences, many other things, and just you guys were elected, you folks were elected to do the deep dive, to get into the weeds and figure these things out, hear from these different points of input, and then figure out what would be the best solution moving forward, right? Whether the public in the surveys support whatever you're coming out of, that's fine, because that's just one point of data that you're considering in your proposal. So I wouldn't be too concerned. It's like, well, there wasn't a whole lot of support in this, but you're finding support for things in from other perspectives or other points of input. But at the end of the day, what I like about this, go crazy if you want. Put a bunch of things in there. End of the day, the voters are going to be the ones that decide.
Right.
So
Yeah,
you're not making the decision. You're just saying, hey, we heard a lot of stuff, and we think this would make a difference, and it's going to make a difference in these ways. And it could be that we've heard a lot of frustration around certain things in the county. And so we think doing these things that we're proposing the ballot will help address those frustrations. But some of the things that they're frustrated about may not be addressed here at all.
Just one comment
Yes.
is that 3,000 surveys were sent out and 300. So you're saying the interest is there, but they didn't.
Yeah.
So, but we still need to have to go on this.
2,400, I think.
Yeah, you can go with whatever you heard there. You could add to it. Yeah, so just think of it as a point of data. It's a point of data. It's not a mandate, right? Because the mandate is going to come from the ballot box. This is a point of data that informs you, but there's a lot of other points of data, I guess is my point, other things that are going to influence you. So you're not beholden to whatever came out of that survey, unless you want to. It's like, yeah, that's what they said they wanted, let's give it to them. Right? You can do it.
Correction. About the survey. I'm talking about the initial. Do you have the percentage that passed this?
So you pass because you're doing it.
Zero. So don't say. As a matter of fact, Rome said no. By two.
Oh, wow.
Okay. So.
One more thing. Actually, 2,400%. 2,400 ballots percent.
What did I say?
You said 3,000. So it was more like 15.
So and that's not a bad return, right? That's not a bad, they'll do national surveys with 4,700 responses, and that gives them a pretty good sense of where the nation's at with 360 million people from 4,700 responses. But anyway, that's the survey data is a whole interesting science, but yeah. Okay, so not a bad return.
I decide whenever I have to. This is the first.
So the whole system requires 2 hearings. You have one at the beginning of the process, which you've had, and then you have one now. So you have a hearing on the tentative report. And after that hearing, then you can adopt the final report. And so the idea is, from the tentative report, are we getting any feedback? Is there things that the public's coming in and saying, oh, we add this, take that, and make changes to it. And then you have that ability after you propose the tentative report, before you make the final report, you can make any additions, changes, whatever to it. Does that make sense? You can edit it.
Right.
So it's kind of your draft report, have a chance to get feedback, and then adopt that final report. So I know like Gallatin County, they're different than you folks, but they adopted their tentative report, which was 214 pages, by the way. They did a lot of surveys, and these survey reports on the surveys were like, 50 or 30 pages. And they had a whole bunch of these reports. So it just added. So their actual report, I think, was 27 pages I sent you?
Yeah.
It's like 27 pages, their actual report. There's all these reports on the surveys that they had. They had like 5 surveys. So they got a 27-page report. They've got that, they're on their website. They have, what they're doing is hearings in all the communities in the county. And so they're making the effort to go to Manhattan, Three Forks, Big Sky, West Yellowstone, Bozeman, Belgrade. So they're going to spend the next 6 weeks, every week, either 1 or 2 places they're hitting that. That's what they're choosing to do. They're going far above and beyond to, and all they're doing is proposing to go from partisan to nonpartisan elections, which the commission can do. That's the only thing you can do without changing your form of government, is make that change. But they're making the effort to go out there and hear from the people and basically saying, are we missing something? Because there was a split in the vote of what they wanted on the ballot. And so they have a very long, a minority report, and I think they've got a good point there. And so there's some openness within the other study commissioners, because they have 7 study commissioners. So there's an openness within those city commissioners, depending on what they hear on their roadshow. If they're getting a lot of feedback that some of those other things should be considered, then they're open to revisiting their votes on those particular items and maybe adding those to the final report. So there's some openness to it, but we'll see. Yeah. Well, we'll see, you know, they could be sitting in Manhattan tonight with one dude like me sitting at their hearing. They had multiple efforts when they went out to the community, each of those communities, to do community engagement. They advertised in the radio, they send out flyers, they put flyers around, they mail things out, right? Spend a lot of money to try to get people to show up. And the only people that showed up in Three Forks was the staff members that was there to do minutes. She drug her mom and brother with her. Those were the two members of the public that showed up, right? So even on top of all that effort to try to get that level of engagement, you know, it's hard. It's hard to get people to engage. And so they're struggling just like you. It's like, well, what do we do with this? There's things that I might want to do, but where's the community on this? So.
Did you ever hear two elected officials resigning the same day they did the others? Who was one person?
Yeah. You had a challenge. You had a challenge. Yeah.
6 months.
I wouldn't be yeah. I think you're meeting your statutory obligation. You've engaged the public. It's not like they don't know what's going on. And it could be that and this is a common thing that happens every 10 years, is communities will often vote to do this out of a level of frustration, not understanding that what they're frustrated about isn't necessarily going to be addressed by the process they voted. They're two separate things. So you're doing your thing over here as a result of frustration over here, but you can't really address this frustration because that's not within your scope. So that's not going away. Meanwhile, you're trying to grind through this thing that nobody really cares about. So you're trying to say, hey, come over here and talk about these things, but they say, yeah, that's not my interest. I'm frustrated about this thing over here. Yeah.
But just one thing, these two jumped in and they did it, and right now I think they're looking at a tentative report, so the timeline is good.
Yeah, you're right where you need to be. Everyone's working on their tentative reports right now, and I think your timeline's good. So yeah, I think you're right on track with some are already done, and some are right where you're at. They're doing their hearings now, and then getting ready to adopt the final report, get everything submitted to the clerk recorder, get all that done, all the questions answered, and then you can decide what level of engagement you want to put into educating the public about it, right? And some of it might depend, might be resource dependent. It's like, well, we can have another listening session, try to advertise and sit in the lobby and see if anyone shows up, or try to mail out little voter guides saying, hey, coming election, you'll see this question. We just had one for the school. The school had a mill levy, and the school district sent out a nice little mailer saying, this is what this means, and a little thing, which was helpful when you sit down with the ballot. And so that might be something you just send out a voter guide to everybody that's voting a week before the ballots show up, saying, this is what we're proposing, this is why, this is what we heard. It's just a little pamphlet that gives them that could be something, and see what happens.
Has to be approved.
Well, I don't approve it. I've shared with you a template. Did I make one for you, or just the template or share just what?
Just the Gallatin County one, I believe.
Okay, and so what we've worked with the Secretary of State's office and some clerk recorders to try to frame out that ballot, and so it's written just like a ballot. So, and we've got proposed language that we can put in there. So when when you're ready and say, okay, this is what we on the ballot, and we want to do the 6 to 4 years. If that's your thing, we can draft that for you. And then you take it to the clerk of the court. They just got to approve it, that it's formed, that it meets all the criteria for the ballot, the proper ballot language. So like I said, we've worked with the Secretary of State's office, trying to make sure that there's some consistency in all these ballots across the state, because study commissions don't, they just kind of throw something together. And then the election administrator is like, we don't see this but once every 10 years or 20 years. So we've set it up to where you just slide in what your proposal is and everything else is written for you. And it looks very much, they'll say, oh yeah, this looks very familiar. So yeah, so let us know. It's an easier. I could send you the template. You just insert your stuff. I can't remember what I sent you. Probably, I don't know if Galvin County's had everything you need. There is that question, right? That where if you vote for this, and if this passes, that will work. So there's language on there to say what this means. So I can't remember what I sent you. Is it in this packet here? Yeah. And did you create one for yourself yet? Or?
Well, that packet I have just has my drafts of the certificates that are borrowed largely from Gallatin County.
Yeah. No change, and you just put the final report saying we're proposing no change. Done. Yeah. You file it with the Department of Administration. You send them a copy of your final report. Final report goes to the county's archives, and we ask that you send one to us so we can archive it, because no one else cares. That there's no other. The state doesn't care. They put it in a box and throw it in a storage locker somewhere, and no one's looking at it from the state. But we keep it active. So in 10 years, when this is up again, they'll say, "Hey, what did we do last time?" And we have all that information. So yeah. So if you decide, no proposal, then you're done. If you want the proposal, then you. What I will say is in 73158, and that's the section of the code that deals with the transition provisions affecting personnel. So it's 4 little paragraphs. So 73158. So it just kind of gives you the structure of when you're dealing with changes in elected officials. Like no elected official is going to lose that they still have a right to complete their term. So when their term ends is when your changes start. So if you had, like for you, being elected for 6 years, you can affect her seat for 6 years. So it might start out being, the next 2 elections, county elections will be the transition, so that when you're done, then the next person elected will be on a 4-year cycle. And so you need to do one at one cycle will be 1 county commissioner elected, the next cycle 2 will be elected. And so you have that ability at the next cycle to start modifying that. So what it might end up being, yes. So yes. Yeah. Park County's like that. And they had one person that was appointed. They were in there, I think, for 9 months, and the other 2 were voted out, and they got new people.
Oh my goodness.
And so they're like, who knows how to do a budget? It's like nobody. Who knows what's going on? Nobody. So there's the vulnerability with having the continuity is a challenge. So there's a handful. Like Madison County is the same way. Park County is that way. Those are the 2 off the top of my head. I want to say Custer County is that one. So Miles City, Virginia City. Instead of those county seats. Yeah, so you just want to think about how you transition. So.
Okay.
Misty, can you hear any questions?
You're on. If you said something, you're on mute. So we didn't hear anything.
Thank you.
I can't, she's too far away. I can't see if her mute button's on or not.
Christie, did you have anything?
What?
Okay. Do you have any comments on anything discussed?
Yeah,
You do?
I have a comment.
Okay. Go ahead.
Dan, if you are covering the whole state in the light of everything that's happening moving wise and just politically, wouldn't you think that it would be smart just to do the education, have people know that you need to make it easier? And since it's not going to be done through the normal process, that it would be smart to make sure that we get this one thing passed. Which
Yeah,
was to change form,
yeah.
because then
I
it
think
allows us to be responsive.
the approach that the study commission's taking is a good approach. Because I think the changing from 6 to 4 could be a hook. If
Right.
people want that, then they've got to make the other change. If it's just the change of the form of government, there may not be enough motivation for people to care. And they just may not make the effort to read the pamphlets, like, whatever, I don't care. But if there's enough people that care about whatever proposed change, then through your education to help them understand that the shift to form is important to do that. So I don't think it's a bad strategy. I think it's, if I were to recommend just proposing a change in the form of government versus form of government and a change in the plan, I would prefer to do the form of government change of plan. I think there's more motivation there for people to care and be involved than just the one, because they're not going to notice any difference. It's like, so what's the point? I'm not going to, today and tomorrow, you're going to be the same. It won't matter. So I think that shift will be the.
Well, and I think it would get people involved, because, it's 10 years the other way, then they wait for the next 10 years or whatever. I just think we have to get more people involved. And I think
Right.
this
And if you did a
a
big campaign to educate voters today in the hopes that they're going to remember in 10 years might be kind of a wasted effort. Yeah.
But at least it allows them to know that they could, like, if we don't know how we want to do the election, at least we could do that next step, correct?
Correct.
Like changing the first piece. In other words, if we change the type of government to what is on the ballot, and then we don't have our total plan on how we want to execute something like the 4 to 3 or whatever else, we could
Right.
work that out without having to go through this.
Yeah, and it can always be too that you can propose this change, they adopt both issues. And then
Yeah,
after 3 years or 4 years or 5 years, everyone's like, yeah, this isn't working for us. Then the commission can place it back on the ballot for the voters to change it back. And I think that's,
right.
you got to wait for at least 3 years to do that. But that's, you're not locked in for 5 years. You can change back at any time. And I think that's what they did in Rio Valley County. Yeah. Yeah. They
And
went from
that
3
allowed them to
back.
make yeah, I think that's smart.
Yeah. No, once you go from ECOF to commission, then it could be from an ordinance by the commissioners to place it on the ballot. So that's the advantage of even if that isn't the most desirable outcome, is to have go from 6 to 4. If it's what the hook you need to, this is all strategy, right? To make the change from ECOF to commission. If it doesn't play out like you wanted it to, and you're not getting the results you were hoping with the going from 6 to 4, you can always change it back, because now that additional option for the commissioner to propose the change to the voters is available to you because you've adopted an alternative form. And you've shifted from your existing or original form.
Just not having to go back to the founding fathers.
Yeah. Yeah. So are we giving the commissioners a little more power? In a way, more access, more opportunity for the commission to facilitate the voters' intent. Yes. Yep. So I like the idea that you're facilitating. Yeah, you're stuck to that 10-year review. So you have more options to be responsive to the voters. Yeah. Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And accountable.
Yeah. So I'm a fan of it. It's just getting over the hump to get people, because I'm a person that likes more options. I want to have more flexibility. I want government to be more responsive. And right now it is very, very confining and not responsive, not nimble enough. When there the opportunity to be more nimble, it's just around the corner. But we've got this barrier in the law. As I was saying, there's 5 words. If we could change 5 words, we wouldn't be having this conversation. It would be so much easier. But the legislature is unwilling to make those changes, those 5 words. So we're back to those cumbersome things. Yeah. I'll have to look it up. Yeah.
So Dan, did you have a chance to look what we created for the certificates to see if those meet all the requirements and look like they're ready to roll?
Yeah, the 2 that I thought, so that's the certificate as your existing plan, and you'll have the proposed plan. That's good. You need to have a certificate that, and I don't remember seeing, I didn't look for it, but that declares when you're having the ballot, that you're going to have the election. So that's a certificate.
Yeah.
That will be your ballot. So the ballot, calling for the election, the proposed form of government, and the existing form of government. So at least those 4. Does that sound right?
Yes, yeah, out of the 5 that were included on Gallatin County, the one that I don't have was just the ballot. Right.
Yeah, you've got that's the 2.
This page, 13.
It's from 11 onward, and I don't have these certificates online, I don't believe, just in the packets.
I'm not getting the one that's.
If you can get the template from Dan, then you can just use those to
Yes.
create the ballot certificate.
Yeah.
So certificate, establish the existing plan, establish the proposed plan, establish the date of special election, and establishing the official ballot. And then establishing the effective date of the proposal if approved. So, which in your case would probably be starting, because with changing election situation, you could put it January 1, 2027. So your transition plan can kick off then. Typically, it would be, if it's not dealing with changing election parts, it will go into at the next fiscal year, which would be July 1.
That's what we have.
Yeah, and so I have to read this again. So that's typical if you're doing things that don't have an effect on the electoral process, right? Because you don't want it to go into effect right in the middle of the election, right? Because you primary elections and all that stuff, and so it makes a big mess. So if they do it in January, then anyone that's filing after that. But I think this next round will be. Yeah.
For example, in 28, the commissioner would be up for election. He would take office in 29. So if it passed, then that commissioner would be 4 years.
Yeah, we got to do the math. Yeah, so.
Would go back to me because Well,
So that commissioner will be at 4 years,
the person who wins.
or you're at 6, and you're done, so this next seat that's going up right now will be elected, take office at 28, so it'll be done at 32, right? Or wait, no, that's 6 years. What are we in 26? They're elected in 26, take office at 27. So it'll be 6 years from 27. From 27 plus 6 is going to be 33. So 33, 27.
That's
So 28. So we put 28 at 4, so they're going to be done in 4 years from 28 to be 32. And then it's 29. Is it 29? It's because elected, you're taking office in odd years, so it'll be 30. Yes, it'll be 33. So they're gonna come do 33. So you'll have 2 expiring. And then the person that's elected in 31, their term for 4 years will be done in 35. So starting the next election will be 4 years. Well, your filing in even years, taking office in odd years. So taking office in 27, you're done at 30. That seat's done at 33. Taking office in 29, they're done in 33. And then taking office in 31, they're done in 35.
4 years.
Yeah. So it should be a relatively easy transition plan that from here on out, after this next election cycle, from here out, they're all gonna be 4-year terms, and then it'll eventually go. Yes.
It takes office.
Hang on.
So let me ask you back real quick to the date of adoption. So you think January 1st would be better than July 1st?
It won't matter.
It won't matter.
If you're a municipal government, it would matter because your elections are happening, their elections will be happening in 27. So if you had it start in July, then you messed up that whole electoral process for filing in the primaries. So if it's a municipal, it would make sense to do July 1 or January 1. You could do January 1, it won't make a difference.
Okay.
So you can have your transition plan start if you want to do July 1 because it won't affect anybody until next spring of 27.
Okay.
Fingers crossed.
So it doesn't matter. So July 1's fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think either way. And you can, and if anyone pushes because you're justified to do it at January 1, but you can do it July 1. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So the default still
There's no pro or con.
There's no advantage.
Okay. Wow. That's some great information.
If it's clear about what your next steps are, where you're going.
I think so.
Yeah, just to clarify, this is our second public hearing on our tentative report. So even if we change this heavily before we submit it as our final report, do we need to have any more public hearings?
No, unless you feel like the public is concerned about the process of watching. It's like if you're going to make a big change. Yeah, I don't think it would matter. Think of like when you're adopting ordinances, you make some changes on the second reading before you do the final adoption.
Okay.
Well, here's the, it says addition to 10 report. So that means you add to the 10 report. And a public hearing, tentative report. How can you do that at the same?
Well, we actually technically had 2 public hearings on the tentative report. Last month, or the April 1st, the last meeting was a public hearing on that was the first time we presented the public report. This is the second time we presented the public report.
Decided that we need to change it. And so that's what the additions to the tentative report is.
Yep.
So we added to it. Now we're accepting it the way it is.
Yeah, that'll be, after we make the additions, that'll be our final report.
I mean, there can be a motion for it after just as we go through the agenda and actually do the public comment period on this, if there's anything more you would like to say, or Christy. Beyond that, I still have a couple more questions. You mentioned how long Gallatin County's report actually is. Would you recommend actually including that sort of appendix section that they have?
I would for, not so much for you, but it would be good for posterity.
Mhm.
Having a place where, and one-stop shop, right? So in 10 years, if they have another one of these, so what did you do last time? You can say, well, here's the final report that has their surveys and all that stuff. It's all going to be in the public record. It's already in the records retained for the county. But I would just do that as dependencies rather than, you see, your certificates. Let's see, the last certificate, certificate B is the end of your formal report, and then you have all these appendices that are saying, here's the information you collected from these formal reports that people can read the executive summaries. And so you can just write an executive summary if you wanted to. It's in there. All the raw data can be in the box that's filed and some stores locked in.
The results of the survey, a copy of the survey.
Yeah, yeah. And I think with Gallatin County, they contracted with Montana State University's Survey Center, and so they're high achievers. So they did all these, and they had these big, beautiful reports with all these graphs, and I don't make it's a huge file. But so there's a lot of information, and I've debated because they contract with us to compile it all, and so we debated just trying to extract just the executive summary, put it there, so just be a page for each of those things, and we thought, well, we'll just put the whole thing in as do it. So far, that's fine. 217 or 14 pages. That's fine.
Gosh.
Yes.
The Phillipsburg or Drummond.
For historical documents, or yeah, and some of we don't have they're all the historical documents handed on the computer.
Did you have another question, Luke?
Yeah, I guess this is for all of us. I mean, I still have the nonpartisan election question on the tentative report as is. So I guess just we can decide right now if we want to have that or get rid of it.
Right. Okay. And what is so let's start with Elena. What is your feeling on that?
I just not going on policy. I do have to have any changes.
Two ways you can do it through this method. Asking voters as part of this process, whether you want to go nonpartisan. Now is the time to do it. However, that is an option for the county commission to do it at any time. They can ask the voters to adopt that without changing the form of government. This is one of the things that annoys me, that the legislature changed and made this. You can change your partisan and nonpartisan without changing your form of government. Still be easy to make that toggle on that issue, but nothing else. The 5 words. It's not an issue. Instead, they added 30 words. So you can have the question: to go from the existing form of government to the alternative form of government? So ECOF to commission. You could have up to 3 other sub options. So one being 4 to 6 or 6 to 4 years. You could go partisan, nonpartisan. You could go to county commissioners, all elected at large. And that's, but you can only do 3. And all 3 of those are going to be contingent upon
that. Yeah. So my concern
Is so we'll have,
change form of government, and then we'll have the 4 to 6.
6. That's the key that, our survey said everybody wants, 2 to 1.
The partisan non-partisan was a 50-50 split on the survey. So my concern is that
Having a second sub option is going to muddy the waters. It's going to make it more complicated. It's going to maybe confuse people. So, but what you said, that then it could be put on the ballot later by the commissioners, wouldn't even need any kind of, yeah. And so after hearing that, my thought is we just have the 4 to 6 subheading and then recommend that the commissioners at a future date, ask about the partisan, nonpartisan, let the voters decide then. Because again, it was it was almost exactly 50-50, and it's like, it's not really a hot issue.
It's a big issue because we have 2 elected officials that are not nonpartisan. We're running as independents.
But then,
Because people, where these people stand, not that they're using the brand after their name. And they say, oh, good, this is a Republican, I'm going to vote, or this is a Democrat. Well, Democrats, no way in Granite County do they have any way of going any place.
yes.
So
There's tons of that, but it's about whether the voters want that or not. But that can be put on at a later date, and we can recommend that. To answer the partisan, non-partisan question, a later date for the voters to think about that. Because they're already going to be thinking about change of government and 4 to 6. We want to tack on a third thing.
There's another community doing that. I'm trying to remember who it is, but they're doing that strategy. They're just doing those 2, and then they're making as part of the recommendations the commission that we recommend within the next 10 years this be placed in the ballot.
So and then you could do that, go to nonpartisan, put it on the ballot right after you become a commission.
Yeah.
Would there have to be a petition to the commission, or the commission could decide?
So the law says the question, so this is in 73103, subsection 4. The question to change the type of election held under an elected county official's form of government provided in 73111, which is that section that had the list of your existing form of government, from being conducted on a partisan basis to being conducted on a nonpartisan basis, or from being conducted on a nonpartisan to being conducted on partisan, may by ordinance be submitted to the electorate of the local government as provided in 73149, which is about it changed. This type of election requires an affirmative vote of a simple majority of those voting the question pursuant to 73149. So you don't need to be a commission form of government. You can do it as the EPOF. So that's the only thing that they made the exception. They chose to put that whole section and that whole paragraph in there instead of changing the 5 words.
Yeah, so if it failed, both failed, both issues failed.
You can still, yes.
Absolutely, yeah. Which we will recommend.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the main things that people. I think you can elected officials feel that way because it's not really.
Your administrators, particularly the rural officers.
Yeah.
But I'm following the law, and there's a guy in a rural community who's very blue, and everybody knows he's blue, but he files as an R. And everybody knows that he gets elected every year, or every cycle. He's been the county treasurer for 16 years, hangs out at the bar talking about blue politics all the time. So it's no mystery, but there's no way he can do that job on the ballot with the R next to him. So he files. Everybody knows.
So I don't understand. Not complete. Let's say they decide we don't want to make them visit. But they still want to be on for us, and how does that happen?
Say again?
If let's say with the final report or whatever, people say we're happy with everything the way it is, so we don't have to do an election. But they still want nonpartisan. Just let's say, then how does that happen? How can the commissioners would do it? That's going to decide.
I think the commission would listen to officials who also feel that it's not political. And that's why some of them are independent, because of that. They're not political, like I said, they're administrators. So, like, for example, me, I would say, yes, let's make it policy. Just my personal opinion.
Yeah.
And as a commissioner, I have that voice.
And then you go to the two commissioners say no. There are the two commissioners say no.
So,
The two commissioners say.
I don't think so. I think they have to listen to the public, and they have to listen to the other elected officials.
so that's a risk that you could make that as a recommendation and they pick it up and they decide not. Yeah, that could happen. You could do it. You could ask them to do it. You know, I don't think there's a right or wrong. It's, you know, you just decide what seems to be best for you now, and hope for the best in the future. So you're not going anywhere. You're gonna be here for a long time. So I just think about a moving train. You're a moving train that's been on the track for over 100 years, right? And you'll be on the track for another 100 years. You're just looking at this between this stop and that stop on this ongoing, never-ending train. And what are we gonna do between these stops? That's all what you do. So, well, it worked. It didn't work. It's okay. We got another stop to hit. It'll happen. We can do it. So you're just part of the continuum.
What is your feeling about putting two subcategories versus one subcategory on the ballot?
I don't know I don't know if it would make a difference one way or the other. I think do it or not do it. I don't think it will make more engagement or less engagement. Might get people talking because one may trigger a conversation. Like partisan and nonpartisan might hit different than 4 to 6 or 6 to 4. But by having both, you may be hitting two different conversations going on in the community that these, you know, some people don't care about one, but they care about the other, and vice versa. So you got more people talking about it, which is, then you can insert, hey, but we got to make sure we don't do this. We got to bridge the gap going from to,
You can say no change, and you can change it.
yeah.
There you go. It depends what you want to do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Just say we're done, no change. And one recommendation is to put that on top.
Mission. Push the guys on. You can sell symbols.
No, that's good.
Yeah. Things that they said.
That's what I have to work with. We've got some people. One commission that elected officials are their own responsible person. It's not the commissioners.
Yeah, they're all elected officials, you reach accountable to the public.
Their own. And I guess there was something in the paper that said that the commission can get rid of.
City councils in Canada, not county commission.
You have to take it to the courts.
Yeah.
Petition to recall.
Or official misconduct charge that may have to go to prosecution through the court. So official misconduct through the court system or recall, wait 6 years. Yeah, so I think we're trying to pass the government meeting. Which thing? Official misconduct?
Yeah.
You would have to be in your official duties that you're county commissioner. Yeah. Yeah. And then there's that, you know, so if they're convicted of a felony or something that may or may not be something that affects the county commission.
So back to the current tentative report does include the
Nonpartisan issue on the ballot, right?
yes, so the two separate. So, okay. So do we want to just leave it that way? We'll go ahead and go the full Monty with that?
Well, is that something you would support?
Would.
Okay. I can make that part of our motion after we finish the public hearing.
Streets are wet, so clearance out there.
It could have been any reason.
Yeah.
But I'm never gonna accept that.
So you can't say therefore.
So you can question it.
Okay. So, do we have anything else to discuss regarding the tentative report?
I think the only other thing to address would be if we're going to need a minority report.
Well, the law says you must have well, let me share with you exactly what the law says. So what you could do in your minority report is just say there was the commission was unanimous on the findings. We have no minority report, and that's your minority report. So you're satisfying because it says must have a minority report. However, the language in that it's just a little frustrating how they frame it, which creates some ambiguity. Oh, shocker. It says, for a second. The language is the final report must contain any minority report signed by members of the commission who do not support the majority proposal.
Okay. So if there's a dissent, then that person or persons would have to write the right detailing why.
Why?
Okay.
And as I've read several of these minority reports, they're saying, like the one from Galvin County, they're saying, we don't think the commission, the city commission went far enough. We think these other things should have been on there too. And for these reasons, they gave the rationale. That's kind of the conversation I had when I went out to these hearings, saying, did we go far enough?
Right.
And so 4 of the 7 are very, conservative in their report. They're conservative in their recommendations. Small C, right? They're saying we just want a few things. This one thing changed. The others think we need to push further. Part of it for them was representation with Big Sky. So Big Sky, they don't feel like, and that's sort of what they heard, Big Sky and West Yellowstone, the whole southern part of the county, is struggles with feeling like they're represented in county government. And so they thought, well, if we go to 5 commissioners, that gives smaller districts, and that's more likely to get someone elected from West Yellowstone or Big Sky. But right now, because the districts are so large, Belgrade or Bozeman overwhelmingly has a bigger voice, and those communities feel like they don't have that representation. So that's what they're trying to figure out. And they did some map modeling with the election administrator to try to figure out how do they slice and dice, because the criteria for districts is it has to be portioned by population and by size. So it has to be square footage and population. So that puts a lot of criteria. So you got a whole lot of national forest, two little blocks there. So they got a lot of space, but not a lot of people. So that forces them to have to balance it out for the people. They've got to pull in like a large metro area in the valley, which they're gonna overrule whatever the minority community wants. Anyway, and that's the point. I think the majority of the study commission saying is like it's not gonna address the concern that they have. So you go through this whole process, and there's still gonna be large. And the others are saying, let's try it. Let's, in this case, less people is better for representation in the commission. Like 5 commissioners representing less people may be a better strategy than 3 commissioners representing a third. So each of them represent 30,000 people. Well, almost 40,000 people. Which, by the way, one commissioner represents more than anyone at the legislature. House seats are 10,000 people. Senate seats are 20,000 people. Those kind of commissioners are representing 40,000. They don't like it when you bring that up to them all.
Georgetown. Let's go.
So yeah, those are discussions about representation, voice. I mean, slicing and dicing with the way it works.
Last time I did the redistricting,
So, okay, so back to the issue of minority report. Do we anticipate there being a minority report, the need for one? Or does the report as written, do you think we're all going to sign on that? It is the lieutenant.
Less than 12 pages. And that's the one.
Yeah, this is the one. This is the report. It's got the 4 certificates. Well, Luke's going to add a 5th certificate. It will include the actual ballot living. And then that will be, and then also appendices. But the appendices, but as far as report, the meat of the report itself, this is it. Currently done, correct.
Yeah, for it.
That's correct. That's correct. But I just outlined what those changes were going to be. Right. Well, of course. Yeah, and then we'll vote on it. But I'm asking, is there going to be, I mean, do you anticipate signing off on it? Okay.
I've seen too many things that have changed. And it's a draft stage, and then they change things, and then they forget which one they pass. I've seen too many of that.
I don't think we're forgetting that.
No, we're not forgetting. There's 3 measures that we're going to be proposing. Pretty straightforward. But, okay. So I guess that's it on the,
Yeah.
on 6.
Okay,
Yep.
one question. So 2 agreed and 1 disagreed. The person disagreeing would have to write a minority report.
That is
Is that
correct.
what you're saying?
Yes, that is correct.
Somebody I do.
Pardon me?
I do one. So,
We have to wait and see. Yeah,
So that's what he's been asking. Are you on board? Because if you're not on board, yeah, or whatever they're proposing, the thing that they're proposing, if you're on board for that, then there's no need for a minority report. If you're not on board, then you need to write a minority report, because that, which would need to go on the report. So we're waiting to find out, are you in or out? Because that will require whether they need a minority report in there or not. So it's still waiting.
when did we get this? Tonight.
That was over a month ago.
yeah, we discussed it a month ago. And the only thing, the tentative report. The tentative report. Well, no, wasn't 12 pages because those last 4 pages are the certificates. That's what's been added since then.
The minutes in the packet are the ones that I had Sarah send out.
That's why I have 2 tentative reports, correct? That there was the one from April 1st.
Correct.
They're both the same, or the second one shows the changes?
Well, there's tentative and tentative, I guess, let's see. Go word for word. See if I
No, the second one added the certificate that were needed.
Which we did tonight.
Yeah.
So,
Which we discussed.
the same, 2 of them.
last time, but then they get afterwards. And you're saying again,
We got one last time, and how many pages? That was just this small.
introduction. And with a chart and a form of plan. Those are the first one.
Okay, well, let's do this.
Yeah.
So, Elena, the current tentative report from tonight is more or less going to be the final report. Well, listen, please. Apart from the addition of one more certificate that has the ballot wording. That's going to be the only change. Right, Luke?
Once we officially
So,
motion that, yeah.
once we motion it, okay. And then you'll be able to read through that over the next month, study it, think about it, etc. And then we can vote next meeting on whether we're going to adopt that as the final report or not, or if there's further changes needed.
So what we're doing is agreeing to this page report with an additional
Certificate.
something certificate. That's what it is. Motion to accept this, the addition of the
Yeah.
last one.
Yeah.
I mean, the motion has to be made first. I was thinking we could just ask for final comments from the public before that.
Yeah, we'll do that before that. Yeah, that's the plan. Okay, so let's do that. Let's ask for final comments. Anything?
No.
I
Christy, any final comments?
I'm for it.
Okay. Okay, so then I motion that with that we adopt the tentative report, the current one, as the final with the addition of the certificate that describes the ballot.
I don't know if I would call it the final yet.
Okay,
Not the
No.
final.
I mean, let me see.
let's see, how would we word this?
Okay. How about a motion that we adopt?
Tentative report. We add to the current tentative report the certificate that it describes the ballot measures.
Yeah, the certificates and probably also just to replace that and update that on the website. And then I guess nothing really needs to be changed about the nonpartisan question. So, yeah, I think that would be it.
Okay. Okay.
Why don't you use the final wording?
Okay.
I'm not doing it right.
I motion to update the tentative report with the certificates necessary as established by MSU in the Montana Constitution and MCA, and update the tentative report on the website with those additions.
Second that motion. All in favor?
I
Opposed? Motion carried.
no, it's not.
Yeah, I guess with abstaining is the question is there's usually a legal reason for the abstention. Like you have a conflict of interest. Other than that, you have a duty to vote, either yes or no. If you got a conflict of interest, you say, well, I can't because I have an interest, a conflict of interest, or usually it's a financial interest.
That's interesting.
No. Usually it's tied to money. You have a financial interest involved in the decision.
No.
You're on the hot seat. You're on the hot seat, sister.
Yeah.
No,
So,
And so,
related to this, to the study commission,
that's.
which that you're involved in. Oh,
So.
motion carried.
So it's kind
So, yeah, so I think would go down probably in the minutes as a no-go. No,
And if I had to do the minority report.
yeah,
Only if you vote no on the
on
final.
the final part.
Yeah, no, this is the tentative.
Okay. Okay, I'm involved in that court case, I'm being sued by Steiner, who was one of the study commission people, and he was the one that was. Said no, because the other two, so if that had anything to do with this study commission, I wouldn't think so. So why are you thinking it does?
Because it's the commission removing an elected official. Doesn't like a meeting. And voting to remove him. I mean, isn't there a process in removing an elected official?
That would be a separate conversation discussion that's independent of what's going on with the study.
Yeah.
So if it's not really. The court of common jurisdiction instead of. So by voting, it would have no bearing on anything other than what you're doing here. And fulfilling your sworn duty as a study commission. Yeah, took the oath of office to say you perform duties of this office to comply with the Constitution.
And uphold the Constitution. And I believe.
And for the record then, on this motion, are you a yay or a nay?
Yeah. This is on the tentative.
Yeah.
Not the final.
Right. So you're
A yes?
Go ahead.
Okay. So it's unanimous. Okay. Great. Motion carried. Okay, so now we set the date for the next meeting.
So just 4 Wednesdays from now.
Yeah.
And I can work with you, Luke, again on the wording, or if you want to work on that certificate, send it to me for review.
Well, sure, thank you.
Before we share it with the rest of us. Something.
So what's the next date?
Looks like the 27th.
May?
Yeah.
I will not be here. I will be out of town.
And what's the nearest date that would work for you to that?
Either the Wednesday before or the Wednesday after.
I don't know if there's too big of a rush right now. I would say we can do it the Wednesday after.
And that would be what day?
June 3.
June 3rd.
Yeah.
Okay, we agree June 3rd.
Yeah.
Okay, 6 o'clock here. And the final one?
I may not be here in person, but I will try to be here. Zoom. Yes. So are you gonna be out of the country? Just one.
The 3rd? No, I'll be here, the 3rd.
Oh, before that? No,
I'm gonna be in,
Probably more exciting than Columbus month.
I don't know, I'm just gonna call this one too.
Well, I have.
Would be any other public comment on matters that are not on the agenda? Anything else? You got anything, Christie? No?
Oh, she'll work out.
Oh, she
logged out. Okay. So
I'll take that as a no. Dan, anything else? Hey, I want to thank you very much, Dan, for coming.
it was very, very helpful.
Illuminating, made me think of things I hadn't thought of before, and really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And thanks,
Thanks, everyone.
I just sent you the proposed ballot language,
Oh, great.
and you just need to swap out Gallup County, Granite County, and drop two sub-options because the last one is what you're asking for.
Okay, sure
Anyway,
thing.
so it should be relatively easy.
Thank you. Motion to adjourn.
One second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.